So today we have Ershad Alamgir with us. Ershad, I would like to say you're a multi-talented artist and musician, but that would be a lie because that is not the only sphere that I can use the word multi-talented to, because Ershad is a multi-talented artist who's trained in Indian classical music and has transitioned into a large number of different genres, from jazz to pop to other different instruments. As you would see on his wall behind you, there are a number of guitars, which I know he is not only able to, but more than able to perform with these. Ershad has also done 1 degree in law, followed by 2 masters in different spheres in law. He then transitioned on to music performance, music production, sound production, and presently he sits in front of me as someone who is pursuing a course in neuroscience. I have to figure out which neuro, because there's so many neuros, aren't there, Ershad?
True.
So Ershad's going to come and talk with us today about what it's like to be resilient. So Ershad, welcome.
Thanks for the lovely introduction. I didn't want to stop you because you're giving your introduction, but I was feeling at some point whether I'm blushing or not.
Well, Ershad, all of these things are true. So whether you think, wow, this is I can or not, these things are who you are.
Very kind.
Ershad,
Thank you.
just talk me through some of these. How have you moved on, or how have you started first?
Well, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father was a businessman, and my mother and father, they used to work. We used to have garments industry. So they were more into exports in different parts of the world. So that's how I grew up, where I've seen there's no one who was a professional with a particular career or anything. They're entrepreneurs and doing good. So, and they didn't, to be honest with you, they would give us everything that we need in terms of when they had plans with studies and other things. But most of the time, they would be ignorant in terms of which class, which grade I'm going to, what I'm studying now. These are the things they didn't know, because they spend more or less like their shifts was different. Because when you have busy shipment dates, you're working nights, days. So we would just turn up there sometimes and spend time with them. But having said that, we were a close-knit family. So I have another brother who's in England as well. So we were very close-knit in a sense that every evening we had a routine that we would go out. And we had a sea beach there in my city. So that was a routine. That was the only place to be. And I grew up in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
So no internet. So we had more connection in the family, among friends, and in the society, community, everywhere. So that's how I grew up. And I was more of an athlete to start with. I used to play cricket. I played cricket for my school, for my college, for my uni as well. And I thought that I would become a cricketer, to be honest. At the time, I wasn't a musician. I knew every time they would ask me. And in my high school, we had a couple of friends and we thought we were going to have a band. We didn't know how to play any instrument at the time. I would say, okay, I'm going to be the keyboardist. He's going to be the singer. That person would play the guitar. We didn't even know how bass guitar works. We thought, okay, that guitar, we can't even hear the sound. So we didn't know how important that was. But anyway, few years down the line, what happened, it was my mother's inspiration. When I was on the 8th grade, some would say that it's a bit late to start. That's the time, one fine afternoon, she just got up and like, okay, let's go out. I'll get you the instrument. Not the exact instrument, but this is called harmonium. She went out, she bought this instrument because we need that in South Asian tradition. When you're singing, you need a harmonium because we play the melody line and we sing on top of that. And she got a pair of tabla, which is a rhythm instrument. So because she had to borrow. There's a neighbor we used to have. He was not trained, but had very good voice. So he would come to our house and he would sing for my mom. So he said, I want my sons to sing for me. So both my brother and I, we had to start singing and take music lessons, but on one condition. We said we would only do that if you would agree to give us guitar lessons as well. So we started music lessons and guitar lessons both at the same time. We would have teachers coming to give us lessons, and that's how we progressed. But at some point, my brother went more onto the guitar side. I got so involved with Indian classical music. I always have, you talked about resilience. I always have these things whenever I find myself that I'm not good at something and I can't do something. I find that challenge to be overcome. I want to see what's on the other side. So it started during the time I couldn't reach high registers. I couldn't, my voice, it was changing at the time due to puberty. So there are a lot of issues. So I didn't enjoy listening to my own voice. And sometimes when I would practice, some of the neighbors would even complain, which my mother would protect me from. So that's how I felt that I had to do that. I left guitar for a while and I started just singing. And it carried on. And yeah, we had changed a few teachers here and there. But one of the last teacher I had, he's the major influence in my life. He introduced me to all the other maestros that I listen to, I still follow. So he's the one. And later on, as I say, always I take up challenges. So anything that I can't do, I have to do. There are a lot of things in the world that I can't do. But whenever I come across something that I like, I feel that I have to know about that. Yeah. And when you start knowing, that's the main mistake I do in my life. Every time I start knowing that particular thing a little bit, I have to go deeper, then I get stuck. Yeah, that's how.
I think you go a bit deeper than most people would, in the sense that you get to a level of understanding, of knowledge, and of application before you think, well, maybe I need to change tack or direction. Whereas I think a lot of people would not get to the levels that I know. I mean, we've talked before this of the level that we've got to. So is there something that drives you to keep going beyond the norm? So if I picked up the guitar, I tell you, my level would be I know 3 chords, and that would be it.
Oh. So you play? That's good.
No, I didn't know 3 chords, which is
okay.
not the same as playing. It is knowing 3 chords. I think
there are many bands, by the way, even in the British music industry, with 3 chords. They won the world.
You mean there's hope yet for me?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So how is it you think that you push past that, those 3 chords?
I think that I cannot get satisfied. I always have a vision. Because first of all, I definitely get inspired by someone or something or a piece of music or an artist. And I need to sound like that, at least. Probably I won't be that good. But the thing is that I feel, okay, why am I not sounding like that? Until I enjoy my own singing, my own playing, I really don't find the satisfaction. That's one of my things still. Some days I really get depressed. Even when I'm practicing and I don't sound good, I am my worst critic, to be honest. And there are times when I used to, which I still do, I know it's not good, that I really am harsh with myself when it comes to that. Unless and until I can't do that, I'm not happy. And many times I've seen that audience can't tell, but I can tell. So when I'm not happy, I feel that, okay, I can't present that thing, whatever that is. People are pushing me, hey, perform that song, do that music. And if I feel I'm not happy with that, I won't do that. But my main thing, as you mentioned about guitar chords. So whenever someone picks up the guitar, the first thing they learn, songs straight away, songs after songs after songs. What I did, I started initially, I had a teacher, but then when I picked up many years later again, which happened in England. I mean, it's been now 2 decades. So I started doing a show on television. So I was the producer. I used to sing, but I needed someone to play the guitar on the show. So I would ask my brother every now and then to join me, but he had time constraints and he had his own issues, like he wouldn't do this, he wouldn't do that. So at some point I said, okay, I know guitar, I have to pick it up. So I started practicing a little bit. I said, I'll just play some chords so I can back myself up. In doing so, I started doing the same mistake again. Yeah. Too much investigation. That's the time when I started self-teaching myself. So I started taking sing lessons, watching hours of lessons and different styles. Some of the styles which you're not supposed to learn at that basic stage, I started learning those techniques unknowingly, because I didn't know that you're not supposed to, because if I had been to a teacher, he wouldn't give me those lessons initially. Yeah. But I was following those people because later on I went to prominent guitar player and teacher as well, academic, Martin Golding. There's a thing called sweep picking, and he was trying to give me the lesson. I said, is it that? And he was laughing. He said, where did you learn that? Because before he could teach me, I already knew that. There were gaps. There were certain things he was showing me I was struggling, but there are harder things I already know. It was interesting because when you are teaching yourself, it's not like a chronological thing. You don't properly follow the tradition. Yeah. So I had to fill in the gaps. So Martin definitely helped me. So yeah, I always listen. I always go for the grammar first. If I'm learning a language, some people are like, okay, hi, hello, and certain sentence, they're happy with that. I want to learn the grammar. If I'm playing guitar or a song, okay, what's the structure? What scale is based in? I want to get good at the scale first. So yeah, probably I could have done better in terms of repertoire, learning more songs, but I'm happy learning the basics and I work on that. And that's one of the things. It's the satisfaction, the vision. Yeah.
So that's really interesting in the way you've approached this, with a level of curiosity, a great deal of self-learning and self-reflection, which I suspect has carried you through your various careers to date.
Yeah, definitely. It helped.
Because I can see behind you, like say, I hadn't spotted the keyboards, because is there 1, 2, 3, 4 keyboard looking instruments. And I'm no musician, so when I say keyboard looking instruments, that's the level of my knowledge, and I will go no further than that.
The black and white keys, right? So
yeah. So you've approached things in a, I would guess, maybe not a systematic 1, 2, 3, 4, but you approach it from a depth of interest.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's something that is admirable.
Thank you.
It seriously is. I want to just segue into the other aspect of your creative personality, which is poetry. And I know that you've performed poetry in public arenas, and you've also authored and written different poems.
Yeah. So I started during my childhood.
Right. Just talk me through how that's gone as a thread throughout your life.
I had, when I was quite reclusive, I was a little bit introvert basically when I was growing up, I think. Yeah. So I would lock myself up, and when internet came as well, during the time dial-up internet, probably you remember that. So I had my internet, my computer in my room. I had books. I built a huge library by the time I finished college. And not that all the books I read, but at the time, whenever you read a book, I still have the same kind of problem that this room is full of books. I have a library in the living room. Thing is, when you read something, you find a connection to another book, then you want to have that too. You want to read about that. So I spent a lot of time reading, and a lot of time I would do my own things like practicing music, sitting there. And I would have friends. I definitely had friends at the time, still now. They would come to my place. It's interestingly, I mean, they would know through this interview now. I would kind of think when they will leave, because normally at my age, we are more prone to being with friends. That's the normal tradition. People, that's how people are like during their teenage years. But I was kind of, okay, my time's running out. I have to practice. I have to read this. I have to write that. And I wouldn't tell them, but there would be a silence that they would feel, okay, there's no communication happening, and they would leave. But I definitely had friends. They liked my music and everything. But yeah, I spent time. Yeah. And through reading, literature is one of my greatest passion. Even when I was studying law, there had been times when during a lecture, I would be reading probably a theory by Romarola or something, or literary, or even Roland Barthes, Heidegger, things like that. I would sit there and read things like that. And I had been punished as well sometimes in my classroom.
I need to stop you there. You're telling me you're doing law and you're reading philosophy while sitting in the lecture theater.
Yep. I've done that.
Now this is proper multitasking, because you must have half your brain looking at patterns of law, and then half your brain looking at philosophical concepts. How is that possible with one brain?
It's now I've learned, people talk about multitasking a lot, but I've learned recently, many of the things I'm coming across now, and since my interest is in neuroscience, as you already mentioned earlier, I have come to know that it's not really possible for humans to do multitasking in a sense, or at least end up doing very good at those tasks. Yeah. You can end up doing it somewhat okay job, but not really good at it. So what I have done, I'm guilty of not really being attentive to my law lectures sometimes when I'm reading those books, because that's my interest. Why do you think I would be reading another book if I was really enjoying the lecture? I mean, no offense to any lecturer. They were trying their best, but it's me. Yeah. So many friends would know that's one of the reasons that I would go sit at the back in the theater sometimes, in a lecture theater. So, but I had been punished at times, because there had been a time when it was a very interesting story. One of my professors, she got me out of the class because I closed my eyes because I read something and I was trying to understand that concept. And she thought I was sleeping. And she said, Ershad, can you leave the class? You're not allowed to sleep in my class. I couldn't even finish saying that I wasn't sleeping. I just closed my eyes to listen to you. So anyway, writing started when I was very young. I started writing sonnet in Bengali at the time. And another thing, when I started writing poetry, I thought, okay, it's not only about rhythm or the meter, that it doesn't have to rhyme. If it doesn't rhyme, how am I going to break that grammar? So I started I started buying books on writing poetry. So I learned a lot of different meters, a lot of different rhyming techniques and everything. Yeah, I had been through that. But now I think I write more freehand. It won't follow any particular rhyming pattern, meter patterns. I don't believe in that anymore. I feel more about the expression. But one of my favorite authors, it was James Joyce. So I experimented with...
Who else could it be but James Joyce? One of the most difficult writers that anybody would wish.
Tell me about that.
Wrap their heads around.
That's one of the things I think it makes me understand now. Anything that's difficult, anything that's challenging, that intrigues me still to this day. Sometimes a book, a concept, if it's not easier, I feel I have to know about that. To be honest with you, sometimes it doesn't really go to I don't even understand. But I feel that, okay, why do I not understand? I always want to go to the source. So I think one of the problems we have in social media as well, since we were talking at some point, people like shorts, the algorithm works more in terms of like, if it's a 1 hour, 50 minutes video, people won't watch it. I think we have become a bit lazy sometimes, probably. I think it's a long thing, or still now. We really don't want to make too much effort. Whatever is easy, that's why people probably watch cat videos, dog videos all the time, rather than, learning a concept, listening to a podcast. So I believe in learning new skills. And when I start learning something, I like to go deeper, because so I know that whatever I'm doing, right or wrong, even if I'm doing wrong, I know that I'm doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want someone else to point it out for me, saying that, Ershad, you're saying this, you're doing this way, but this is not the right way, because I don't know. I just don't want to be on the surface. So that's how it started.
So you, from my understanding, be it the music or be it the poetry, or I suspect other areas in your life, you're setting your own standards.
Exactly.
Your internal compass of standards is what keeps you motivated and moving forward.
Yeah. And a discipline as well. Definitely. I maintain. Yeah.
So I would like for you to share with people listening one of your poems. And the one that caught my attention was in around the theme of freedom. And for us in Momentum, it's all about not just resilience for the sake of resilience of, how can you get up again after being knocked down, but that sense of moving from wherever you are now, a sense where you're flying at the highest possible that you can fly at, with the sense of freedom that comes with it. So that's why I was particularly attracted by a reading you did, which you entitled "Choose Your Fears."
Choose your fears wisely.
Choose your fears. That's the key word.
Exactly.
Wisely. Yeah. So would you do me the honor of just reading that for us, please?
Yeah, definitely. So before I start, I'd like to give a little bit of intro about that. I wanted to talk about freedom because I was asked. I'm part of a group called BBPC, British Bilingual Poetry Collective, and we do performances, different occasions. Now we have another performance coming on the 29th of January at Rich Mix. So this time I'm writing poetry on the theme of layers of language. So when I wrote this poetry, it was based on freedom, because Tower Hamlets Council, they had this festival and they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the independence of Bangladesh. And but I decided to write my poem on the theme of individual freedom. One thing is that I feel that people are more or less, we are now, especially in the days of social media, we are more prone to making others happy. Okay, what's the algorithm saying? If I post that kind of a video, then I would get more likes.
Yeah.
So my creativity says, I want to make a music like that. But then this kind of music people don't like normally. They don't listen anymore. So you're not creating it. It's affecting our creativity now, because you are thinking the external voices are manipulating you from every respect. So that's one of the things I felt that it's very important now. And we are always scared that we lose the connection with people. This is a primordial instinct that we have. So that's why I said that choose your fears. The fears you have, choose it wisely. Otherwise, you would lose your own self-worth and your individuality. That's one of my, that's the idea behind this poetry. So I would like to read it the way I did when I recorded this.
Please.
Choose your fears wisely. You're afraid of the pariah in me. You probably hate me as a sinner. As you found sin in my freedom, the freedom of choice is a life of failure. It makes you secretly smile while you gloat, feeling safe. How safe are you? Playing it safe would never actually make you safe. It keeps burning my hands over and over, playing with fire. Now that flame rests peacefully on the palm of my hand. We stare at each other. It smiles back. I look at its beauty, its color, its rage, and the serenity in the silence with bated breath. Everyone else laments my insanity. What is he doing? Laughs at me, gives a wide berth to me. I have freed myself of those sneers now, the stares, and the well-meaning tears of pity. I'm just being me. All masks off. I'm just being myself. Now you can thank me for letting you feel free to be you as I set myself free. The treacherous hydra that freedom can be. Choose your fears wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Can I ask, Ershad, who were you talking to? There's a dialogue there going on.
It's with everyone else. Even I was thinking about the audience I'd be reading it to.
Yeah.
And I think everyone around us, every now and then I find people among my friends, my relatives, everyone is going through the same restlessness. And especially, as you know, the podcast I started, Knowing Who You Are. And it's a channel on YouTube as well. The reason behind it, because every time I go back to my country, which doesn't happen that often, but in recent years, I've done it like back to back because my parents are there and they're not really in good health. I felt there's a restlessness among people and they don't have any idea about their purpose in life. It's just get a job, how much money you're making, the competition, how much you are showing your wealth off on social media. This is all about it. End of the day, they get into a lot of trouble in their marriage, in their relationships, external relationships, extramarital affairs, things like that. Because when you're not sure about what you want in life, I think that's when the problem starts. And when you are too busy trying to please millions of people around you, because on social media, how many people were watching? And every time you feel, oh, they might like this if I do my makeup like this, if I wear this particular clothing, if I wear the particular brand. So there's nothing about the internal self-worth, what you are as a human being on your own. We are not thinking about it. We are just thinking about what other might perceive of me. What is their perception of me? And this is what I have to project. So until and unless it comes from within what you are or how you are born and what your values are. And when we forget about the self-worth, I think this is when all the problem starts. And so when I wrote this poetry, I wanted to read it out to people because it makes me think every now and then. We do a Sunday live stream as well. We get a lot of phone calls on that show. People talk about the problems. Say, for example, someone would talk about their relationship. Even they, when they talk to us, they found the problem because my plan is to let them see the source. That's all. I'm not going to give them any solution. I'm not in a position to give them. Even no one is, I feel, because you are the only person who can find the solution to your problems because you know yourself the best. I understand. So they talk about it. You feel that they already had figured it out. They again come with the same problem, talking about the same issue. So this is when I decided that people are so scared of something. So they can't achieve that freedom. Because this freedom normally comes, I feel people think about, okay, if you become minimalistic, then you can achieve your freedom. Most of the time they forget that it's just a mean, it's not the end of life. Because main thing is to live below your reality. If you can do that, you can be happy. Say, for example, you have a social media Instagram page, you're probably in a race to wear this particular brand of clothing or show off your house in a certain way. But if it's not your reality, you won't end up being happy. So that's when I decided that I would like to try to reflect some of those ideas in my poetry.
Yeah, no, it's extremely powerful the way you hold the ambiguity of concepts in that piece, where there's a sin and the saint. I know you didn't use the word saint, but you used the word sin. And then there's the fire that burns, and there's that fire resting peacefully in your hand at a particular point within the piece. And so that kind of moving back and forth between the two, along with the idea of saying, well, you feel you're safe, but actually the safety is as paper thin, because
Exactly.
the mask you're still wearing is hides that. And so,
because last 2 years we learned that.
Yeah,
everyone thought they're safe. All the countries, superpowers, they thought they're safe, and it was proven that we can never be safer. I mean, we can never guarantee that we are safe. There's always something lurking somewhere, and anytime it can totally upend everything that you hold yourself, and you think that, okay, this is what I'm all about, but the next day it can change. And I believe in the unpredictability of things now. And people are so much into this idea of certainty. That's where all this insecurity comes from. So problem is that we value our certainty above the variety in life. So this is what I believe in. And if you ask me, Ershad, how come you go into or jump from one discipline to another? Because I believe in the variety. I always remind myself that it's a short life. I won't be living forever. Before I leave, and there's no afterlife. I don't believe in that. So I believe in this lifetime, if I want to know about something, this is my time. Why leave it for? Because I won't have any other chance. That's my only chance I have now. So I want to do it now. That's the idea.
Yeah. That's a very strong philosophy of life to have. That even if people who are not believers in something beyond, they still have a fear that stops them from tasting and seeing what is good in life. So
exactly,
and that it takes some courage and it takes some strength to be able to move within the different arenas that you have moved through. I want to segue back to another thread that I know runs through your life, which is particularly relevant at this point in time. You know, we've gone through 2 years of a pandemic. So there's a lot of people who are not as strong and not as fit as they could be. And yet I know that when we've talked before, there are certain practices that you've had inbuilt for a number of years, which keep you moving and provide a foundation for all the other things that keep shifting. And that is fitness. So I just wanted you to share something of what the word fitness means to you and how you've come to it and applied it to this present date.
Well, to start with, I have felt over the years that fitness is almost like religion to me, what it is for a believer. So I almost feel I have the compulsion to do that. And now I feel it's down to neuroscience, as we were saying. It's about incorporating the habits. And I think the habit is so much ingrained in me now. If I don't go to the gym 2 days back to back, I start feeling that I'm losing myself. I feel a little bit distressed, a bit depressed as well. So that's how fitness started. But I started back then. It started probably in the 80s, 90s. You definitely remember the movie Rambo, Commando, Predator, Terminator. So I was a big fan of those characters, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I wanted to be like them. You can imagine a kid of probably 11 or 12 and those muscle size, my whole body probably of the size of the arm. But at that time, I started training, and again, self-taught. And I started watching or reading about it. At the time, you couldn't watch YouTube. There's no internet. So I started reading. But good thing was that in the factory I mentioned, my parents owned, we had some people from Myanmar. At the time, it was known as Burma. Mm-hmm. So they were part of the Rohingya community. You probably heard about them. Yeah. So they were in Bangladesh, these people, they're working for a factory, but they had the training. Both of them, they used to know martial art. So they were very much well loved by my parents. They used to, after their work at the factory, they would come to our house. We had many people like that from the factory. They would do some certain things for us. So very like domestic help, or even some, whatever they felt like, they were part of our family. So they had taken it up. These two people, I clearly remember, they made me a white belt. They said, okay, you will be white belt because you're learning first. And they would teach me moves and I would practice with them. So that's how I started my fitness journey. And after that, I didn't have, I couldn't buy, it's not about, probably it wasn't available, or I didn't know where to get it from, barbells, dumbbells, things like that. So I bought two small iron bars of the same size from someone who was selling scrapped iron. So those were my dumbbells.
Yeah.
So I used to work out with them. Probably they were not of the same weight, both of these. So I started seeing one of my arms, it was getting a bit bulkier. The other one wasn't catching up. So yeah, I had been through it, but again, at some point, probably last 5-6 years, I started going to the gym regularly. But fitness has always been with me. I would do something. I was an athlete for a long time. I used to play cricket. I was the opening bowler, opening batsman for my team. So for many years, that was my thing. Cricket was another religion, which I had to give up in England. So when I came to England for higher studies, I started playing for my uni at the time. But then I felt, what am I going to do? Music. I started working for TV as well. I was studying. So you need to give certain time to do practice. And how much time do we have in a day? So I decided to give up cricket. I still play. Anytime I get a chance to play in a park with a team or something, I would do that. But yeah, I didn't follow through. That's the only thing I didn't really carry on doing. Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
We found something you haven't followed through on, Ershad.
It's due to, because you can't do this you need to go out, and also the practice I was doing at the time, that was the main reason. The people I was practicing with, their aim was, they're younger, I would say teenagers, 17, 18 years old at the time. Their main thing was to bounce the ball so high it would go up to the height of my head. So we didn't have, at the time, we were not wearing helmets. So I was worried that I would get injured. So I had higher priorities, my studies, my music, and I was working for TV. And I thought, okay, why am I risking my life? So that's probably one of the driving factors. I haven't lost my love for cricket, but I still can spend hours watching cricket. But yeah, playing wise, I didn't. That's the only thing. You're right.
Yeah. So let me just go back a bit to the first sort of learning particular move. Just what were you learning?
For fitness?
From the people
from those two guys?
Yeah. What were you learning? Was there a particular form is there a name to it?
It's basically martial art they were teaching me. I was more into Kung Fu because of Jackie Chan at the time.
Yeah.
So, but they were teaching me all martial art moves, kicks, high kicks, flying kicks, and things like that. So I was practicing with them those martial art moves, but in the background, I would have my own fitness regime that I would do weights, I would do push-ups, pull-ups. And at some point I started practicing with, I would have those two ropes and their two iron rings. So I would just do pull-ups with those. So yeah, I tried many things and everything was self-taught. And at the time I didn't have internet or anything. So I was just taking ideas from people who were doing it. And in my city, there was only one gym, and that gym, the idea interesting, back in the 80s, 90s, in our country, I haven't seen that fitness was a thing that people have to do. It was more for the people who are into bodybuilding. That's the only thing. So you go to the gym if you're a bodybuilder. So if you are just if you want to keep fit, you don't do that. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But now, even when I visit my country for 3 weeks, I get my membership for a month. There are gyms, like 2-3 gyms in every neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's a thing that has caught up now. So back in the days, no. So I had to do it at home. And my mother would always say, what are you doing? And she still tells me, whenever she gets to see me, she's like, can you decrease the amount of workout you do? Can you reduce that? Because I think you need to, because you're growing older now, you might injure yourself. I said, you're going the other way around, because I won't get injured because I'm doing it. If I didn't, then I would have more trouble.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's very, very true. What happened during the lockdown when you couldn't get to the gym every other day?
It's interesting. It's one of my friends I made at Kingston. He's originally a Nigerian, but he grew up in England. So he's a fitness guy. If you see him, you can tell literally he looks like one. And that's just one of the things that he's passionate about. He can spend hours at the gym. So we started talking. I said, what are you doing? So in terms of what are we supposed to do now? We can't go to the gym. We go to the same gym as well. So he said, okay, you know what? I have ordered some bands, resistance bands. So I said, okay, send me the link. And he sent me the link. So I cleared up a space in my living room. So I started doing same 1.5 hour routine during that time. Because as I said, it's not about COVID or you have to stay alive or anything. My thing is, so long as I'm alive, I have to keep doing these things. If I don't do that, the fitness regimen, if I don't follow it, I get depressed. That's how it's ingrained in my whole personality. So yeah, that's how I started doing it. And I had a few weights at home, which I still have, and those bands. Yeah, I had done everything, and I somehow maintained my shape. I think what I did at the time, because people might have get scared, I got scared and I felt, okay, my time is over now, because I felt many of my friends, many of my friends died during the time from my network. So I felt, okay, my time probably it's coming. And I was ready. I spoke to many people. Look, if I die, this guitar, this is the value, or you can sell it there. I mean, I told some people I rely on, they know about this. And I was decided, okay, I'm dying. But just because I'm dying, I won't give up doing anything that I do. I kept on doing it. Every morning I would get up. By 8 o'clock, I would take shower, get ready, fully ready, and go to my studio, spend probably 9-10 hours at a stretch. And my classes were on. So I was doing my postgrad classes as well at Queen Mary. So yeah, I had a good routine, I would say, better than now.
So your pattern and your habits were ingrained. It just changed in form or the place in which you were doing whatever it is. But the patterns were there.
Yeah. And I think it helped me as well, combating the virus. I don't know, probably at some point, because I never got infected so far, touch wood. But first thing, whenever I had taken a vaccine, people get side effects. Mm-hmm. I never had gone through it. I've done all 3. I've done my booster as well. My partner, she goes through this phase of 6-7 days. And she's into fitness as well. She was a dancer. But I feel probably something happened inside that it helps me fight diseases, I think, because I'm not growing any younger. So, yeah.
Well, there is scientific evidence of exercise which increases the number of T cells and natural killer cells within your body. While they haven't tested it to date with the pandemic, they have over the years looked at it from flu vaccinations, where people who have exercised within the last 6 weeks of having a vaccine, the flu vaccine, produce greater antibodies. So that link is proven. It's there for sure.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, I'm reading those literature now.
Yeah.
And I find, okay, there's a relation to it in terms of diet and staying leaner, how it can increase your, you can live longer and how it can help you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the living longer bit, but I know it can make you or help you live a healthier life.
Because it adds years to your biological age, because we sometimes think, okay, our chronological age and the biological age is the same. If I'm 45, I feel like I might have a body of 45. Reality could be I have a physique of probably a 65-year-old, or probably I have a physique of a 30-year-old. It can go both sides. So that's how they say that you can slow down the process of aging with proper diet, fitness regimen. Definitely it helps.
For sure. I believe that to be true as well. So on that front, so if I said to you, Ershad, I've never exercised in my life. Do you think I'm now the same age as you? Is there any point me trying to do it?
This is something I've seen more or less in many people's psyche, that they feel that age is a barrier to the enjoyment of life. And there's no particular age as I look at it. I've seen people who are keeping fit, and you are really into fitness as well, as I know. Yeah. So this is important, because when we know about the value of fitness, I have faced people, and we do a Sunday live stream of Knowing Who You Are, where we had received many phone calls. People would say, Ershad, I know that you're into this. How can I start doing some workout? So I think, as we are talking about, it's all about habit formation. So when I started doing it, I didn't know about those things. I wasn't aware of those concepts. I think we, in the world, globally, we didn't really think about those concepts. Now, as it is now, we know every literature is available for habit forming and habits and everything. So I tell them, normally I feel that starting smaller portions of exercise, like even for 5 minutes, so you have a procedural memory, that you know that it slowly gets ingrained in your system. So if you can get yourself do that, because there's a resistance, and you talk about it, probably you did limbic friction, probably you talked about, which comes from either we are too stressed or too anxious about doing that thing. Oh my God, I have to go to the gym. You get stressed straight away, or you feel lethargic, like, oh no, I don't feel like today. Give yourself an excuse not to go. So I feel if we can build that habit, and visualization, as you said, it helps. And it's proven scientifically as well, neurologically, because when you imagine yourself doing the things, okay, what do I do? Okay, I have to wear my gym clothes. I open the door, I walk out. And so you are teaching your brain, there's certain neurons. So there are certain receptors. I mean, I'm not really, I shouldn't talk about these things, but what I have learned through my studies, that they can help firing the neurons more often, because you're already thinking about it even without doing it, but your brain learns. So whenever you give them the cue, okay, I'm ready to go to the gym, you probably take your gym bag and your gym clothes. If you're wearing it, straight away the neurons start to fire. And then the resistance that you feel, the limbic friction, that reduces. So that's the way. So if they try to do a little bit every now and then, and many people through the show, I'm very happy to say that they would just report back, hey, I've started swimming, I'm walking. I would just tell them, get out of your bed for 5 minutes. You want to see the sunrise, right? Just go out, see the sunrise, come back. 5 minutes walk in your street, come back home, get under the duvet again, no problem. I mean, if you can do that, try to do that every day, 5 minutes, and increase the time later on. And at some point they feel that, oh, I can do that. It's part of the habit. I want to see the sunrise and I want to go out for the walk, So it doesn't happen overnight. So we can push ourselves by building like 5 minutes, 10, 15,
that's
20.
a very sneaky thing to say. Because the odds are, by the time you get out there and come back, you're not going to jump back in your bed.
You won't.
You won't. That's a sneaky way of doing it, Ershad.
You're tricking the brain as well. Yeah.
I'm not going to come and get any advice from you on getting out of my bed, because I'll never get back in my bed.
They're happy, but I had the same thing yesterday. It happened. I didn't have quality sleep. But when my partner, she was going to work in the morning, she said, okay, why don't you walk with me? I said, I don't feel like, I don't think I can do that. Then at some point I said, what am I going to do? I'll try to get more sleep, which won't happen. It doesn't happen after the daybreak, and you feel that it never comes back. So I feel, okay, push myself, get rest, and I'll do it. And I did that. Even though I probably had 6 hours of sleep, I wasn't feeling my 100%. But by the time I finished, I think my body felt refreshed and revived.
Yep. Yes, for sure.
And there's mechanism as well. I mean, the blood rush to the brain and everything, the whole thing gets activated. Yeah. So, and fitness, one thing I felt anytime I feel a bit stressed, anything I'm worried about, which I try to do less and less now, I feel going to the gym straight away after the gym session, my mind clears up. It helps.
Yeah, definitely. So as we come towards the back end of where we are now, Ershad, for this this conversation, where are you going in the future? What's on your near horizon?
It's really cliched these days to say that, but I truly believe in the power of now. Yeah. As Eckhart Tolle has a book as well. But I don't really follow what is being said in that book exactly, but I have seen there's no predictability in life. You can plan for things, definitely we all should have, but you can't predict the next day. Anything can change overnight. So main thing is what I try. Every day, I try to aim to get a little bit better than yesterday. That's all. At least 1%. Say, for example, I didn't mention on this one, I am doing a boot camp now on coding as a web developer, and I'm learning different programming languages. This is self-teaching myself as well, but the boot camp is part of the program. So I feel every day I finish a few chapters, or at least one chapter, that one chapter wiser. I know something new which I didn't know yesterday. Yeah. So this is how I work on. So as you said that I'm planning my postgrad in neuroscience because I want to go into research. I'm very much interested in how our brain works, because we are our brain. It's not part of our body, but the whole brain, it controls everything that we do and our whole life. So I want to know more about that. So that's the goal now for the time being. And in the meantime, along the way, I don't know what I'm going to pick up, what else I would get interested in. But main problem is that to keep track of everything that you develop your skills on, I have to practice music, I have to write, I love to read. So yeah, sometimes it's hard, and I want to get proper sleep now. As I'm growing older, I'm in my mid-40s now. I feel now, I know the value of sleeping. I mean, I used to get by sleeping 4 hours at night. I used to go to bed probably 3 o'clock, practicing all night, things like that. I have stopped now, and my partner really keeps track of that. She would come to my studio, open the door and say, half an hour to go to bed. And sometimes I don't feel happy about that, but I'm happy that she does that to me. It reminds.
It's nice to have a living, loving alarm clock.
Yeah. And she's very systematic as well. She's a graphic designer. She can totally get carried on, totally carried away, whatever she's doing, totally lose track of time. I have to remind her sometimes. I have to tell her, keep on drinking water. Don't forget your food and things like that. Because since she's into this kind of things, as you know, knowing who you are for the podcast itself, she is the editor of that. So after I've done the main edit, she would do the editing of the video. She's the main graphic designer, and we have plans on doing that. And she's doing her own courses as well. So yeah, it helps, and we follow both. And she understands where I'm coming from. She respects that. So, and there's no conflict in terms of that. I think one thing I would like to mention, relationship. If you have a good diet, if you have a good fitness regime, and when you have, you're in a good place in your mind, I think you can provide more towards your relationships as well. And it's important.
For sure.
I mean, if you're not happy, you're grumpy all the time, I mean, people around you wouldn't be happy as well. So it's important.
My wife says exactly the same thing. You're much nicer after you've been out and come back.
Well, you're already nice.
You should go out more often. I'm just
Yeah,
worried.
going out. The word going out. Yeah, it is quote unquote. It has different meanings.
One day she might change the lock when I'm out. I don't know. I get worried.
But you have to come back. She needs you after that, change Johnson after that half an hour walk.
Exactly. No, Ershad, it's been fabulous talking to you. It's been
Same
really
here,
good.
always.
I enjoyed it. So just as we go, I have two last questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, how do you find complete rest? What is your go-to place or system or whatever it is to get? If I said to you, give me in one sentence, what does complete rest mean to you and how do you find it?
I think throughout the day it doesn't happen. I only get my rest when I decide to go to bed, and which I try to do by 10:30, 11 o'clock at night latest. And I found for my body type, it's chronotype, that's what they call it. Mm-hmm. So that I am supposed to go to bed by 11:30. Definitely I should fall asleep and wake up by 7. So I try to follow that. And that's when, because throughout the day, I'm always thinking about something. It doesn't happen. And I tell myself 5 minutes, shut everything and just sit down, just spend time with myself. It doesn't really happen. So I feel that when I go to bed, that's the time I make sure that I get proper sleep. Yeah, that's my main rest.
Excellent. And lastly, where do people find you on the online space or otherwise?
We have a website. It's called knowingwhoyouare.blog. Probably you'll add that in the description as well. Yeah, and there's Instagram, there's YouTube. Everything is knowing who you are, but we write knowing who you are in a particular way. So it's easier to find if they write it that way. But we have the website where we have all interviews, all podcasts, all my work, many of my poetries are there, my recitation. And also we are trying to add, because as I say, with knowing who I want to build a community. And you mentioned resilience, and this is very important for people. And when people can find their own solutions, talking to each other and sharing their own experiences, I think life becomes easier. Then you're not dependent on a particular specialist, a therapist or someone, and you feel that you can't help yourself. In fact, we can help ourselves. So with knowing who we are, we want to show people that all the tools they need, they have within themselves. So we are trying to start with a page on that website, knowingwhoyouare.blog, where we'll have guest poets. So we'll feature them, we'll share their poetry. So there's a reason for them, to inspire them to come up with their creativity, totally independent of any kind of algorithm. They just want to create whatever they want to create as an individual, they can do that. So this is the first step, but we have a plan of creating a hub, as you said, creative hub, we call it. So for musicians, for thinking people, and even for people in general, they just come and listen to them. They can learn something, and people who will make them think about life. So that's the idea.
Excellent. Ershad, I wish you all the best in the near and the distant future, and I'm sure we will speak again soon.
Oh, definitely we will. And thanks for having me on your podcast. I do watch it, and especially when you give instructions, sometimes you have videos when it's just you, and you make it so easy, smaller chunks of knowledge and wisdom. So I love that. And keep on doing the great work you're doing, John.